The kitchen was my sanctuary at midnight, not because I owned it, but because in the darkness I was finally equal to everyone else. I moved through the space the way I'd memorized it over 2 years, 15 steps from the industrial refrigerator to the main prep counter, 3 steps left to the stove, 2 steps right to the sink. My fingers trailed along the cool marble, reading the kitchen like Braille, finding my way through a world I couldn't see. The wealthy didn't sleep at midnight, but they didn't venture into kitchens either. That's why I loved this hour. No one to watch me stumble. No one to see the blind Omega chef who'd somehow convinced the Hartley brothers to hire him despite his disability. No one to watch me celebrate my 28th birthday alone. I reached beneath the sink where I'd hidden my small secret, a single cupcake from the corner bakery, vanilla with chocolate frosting. The woman there knew me by voice, always gave me an extra treat when I came in. She probably thought this was for someone special. She wasn't wrong. It was for me. That made me special enough, didn't it? I set the cupcake on the counter with careful precision, then pulled the birthday candle from my apron pocket. My fingers found the numbers embossed on the cheap wax 2 and 8, 28 years old. 28 years of being invisible, first because of my designation, then because of my blindness, now because I was both. The match hissed when I struck it against the box. I felt the heat bloom near my fingertips before bringing it carefully to where I had positioned the candle. The flame caught with a soft whoosh of air. I couldn't see it, but I could feel its warmth on my face when I leaned closer. Could smell the burning wax mixing with the lingering scent of tonight's dinner, herb-crusted salmon and roasted vegetables for the Hartley brothers and their business associates. They'd complimented the meal, I'd heard. Their guests had asked about the talented chef. The brothers had deflected smoothly, keeping me anonymous, invisible, the way I preferred it. The way I'd convinced myself I preferred it. I took a breath, and in the silence of the vast kitchen, began to sing. Happy birthday to me. My voice cracked on the words. I'd been alone so long that even singing to myself felt like too much intimacy, like I was intruding on my own solitude. Happy birthday to me. The second line came out steadier. I closed my eyes, an automatic gesture, even though closing them changed nothing in my perpetual darkness. Happy birthday, dear Elias. My name sounded strange in my own voice. When had someone last said it with affection? When had anyone said it at all beyond Chef or Mr. Thorne? Happy birthday to me. The song ended. The silence that followed felt heavier than before, pressing down on my chest until breathing became difficult. I leaned forward, finding the candle's warmth with my face, and prepared to blow it out. Don't. The word came from behind me, deep and commanding, and my entire body went rigid with shock. The cupcake slipped from my suddenly nerveless fingers. I heard it hit the counter with a soft thud, heard frosting smear across marble. My voice came out barely above a whisper. Mr. Hartley, I apologize. I didn't mean to use the kitchen for personal. There are 3 of us here, another voice said, this one gentler but no less intense. And you're apologizing for existing in a space you've earned the right to occupy. Which seems to be a pattern with you, the third voice added, warm with something that might have been amusement or might have been pain, always apologizing for taking up space. 3 voices, all 3 Hartley brothers. Watching me sing to myself, watching me celebrate my birthday alone in their kitchen like the pathetic Omega I was. Shame burned through me hotter than the candle's flame. I'll clean this up, I said, reaching for where I thought the cupcake had fallen. My hand found only empty counter. And I'll make sure it doesn't happen again. Stop, the first voice again that had to be Sebastian, the eldest. His voice always carried that edge of command, that weight of responsibility. Stop apologizing and turn around. I should really... Elias. The gentle voice, probably Marcus, the middle brother who'd interviewed me 2 years ago, who'd asked about my blindness with curiosity rather than pity. Please, turn around. I did, slowly, keeping my head down. I couldn't see them, but I could feel their presence filling the kitchen the way they filled every room they entered, massive, overwhelming, impossible to ignore. I could smell them too. My other senses had sharpened in the years since I'd lost my sight, and scent had become how I read the world. Sebastian smelled like cedar and leather, with an undertone of the expensive bourbon he drank in his office late at night when he thought no one knew. Marcus carried notes of sandalwood and old books, a warm scent that reminded me of libraries and quiet afternoons. And Dorian, the youngest, wore a scent of citrus and something wild, untamed, probably the motorcycle oil that clung to him after his late-night rides. All three scents wrapped around me now, making my omega instincts sing with awareness even as my logical mind screamed at me to run. "How long have you worked here?" Sebastian asked. 2 years, sir." 2 years, he repeated, and something in his tone made my skin prickle. "And in that time, have we ever given you reason to hide in our kitchen at midnight to celebrate your birthday alone?" "I'm not hiding, I just—" "You absolutely are," Dorian cut in, "and we want to know why. Because you're alphas and I'm a blind omega who knows his place. Because you could have anyone and I'm grateful you even let me work here. Because hoping for more than professional courtesy would break me in ways I can't afford to break." "I prefer solitude," I said instead, which wasn't entirely a lie. "Bullshit." Sebastian's bluntness made me flinch. "You're not solitary. You're lonely. There's a difference. With respect, sir, you don't know me well enough to—" "Don't we?" Marcus this time, his voice closer than before. I hadn't heard him move, but I could feel him now, just a few feet away. "We know you hum while you prep vegetables. We know you keep your spice rack organized alphabetically with braille labels you made yourself. We know you touch every dish before it leaves this kitchen, using your hands to verify its perfection." My breath caught in my throat. "We know you read in the library on your afternoons off," Dorian continued, his voice coming from my left. "Adventure novels, mainly. The ones with texture print covers so you can identify them by feel. You sit in the window seat and mouth the words as you read. We know," Sebastian said, and his voice was directly in front of me now, so close I could feel the warmth radiating from his body, "that you've been working yourself to exhaustion for 2 years. Trying to prove you deserve to be here. Trying to be invisible. Trying not to be a burden." Tears burned behind my sightless eyes. "How?" "Because we notice everything about you," Marcus said softly. "We have since the day you walked into the interview with your cane and your resume and refused to use your blindness as an excuse for anything. You cooked us a meal that day," Dorian added. "Told us to judge you by your work, not your eyes. Do you remember what Sebastian said?" I shook my head, not trusting my voice. "He said you were hired before you'd even finished plating the dish." Dorian continued. "Because anyone who could navigate a strange kitchen and produce perfection while blind wasn't just skilled, they were extraordinary. And you've been extraordinary every single day since," Sebastian finished. "So why the hell are you celebrating your birthday alone in the dark like you don't matter?" "Because I don't." The words escaped before I could stop them. "Not really. Not enough for anyone to—" I stopped, horrified at what I'd almost revealed. "Not enough for anyone to what?" Marcus pressed gently. "To remember," I whispered. "Not enough for anyone to remember my birthday. To care that I'm turning 28. To—" I couldn't finish. The silence that followed felt like judgment. I waited for them to laugh, to dismiss my pathetic admission, to remember I was just the help and this was all terribly inappropriate. Instead, I heard the scrape of a chair being pulled across the floor. "Sit," Sebastian ordered, his hand finding my elbow with shocking gentleness. "Please." I sat, mostly because my legs had gone weak. Sounds of movement surrounded me. I heard the refrigerator open, heard items being retrieved, heard someone washing their hands at the sink. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Making this right," Marcus said. "Dorian, where's the good champagne?" "Wine cellar. I'll grab it." "Sebastian, can you actually bake, or are you going to set something on fire again? That was one time, and it was your fault for distracting me." "Fair point." I sat in confused silence as the three of them moved through my kitchen because I'd started thinking of it as mine somewhere along the way with purpose. They worked around me, their movements coordinated in a way that suggested they'd done this before, collaborated on something together. "What's happening?" I asked again, feeling untethered. "We're making you a proper birthday cake," Sebastian said from near the oven, "since that gas station cupcake doesn't count." "How did you know it was from—" "We know the bakery's scent," Marcus explained. "We also know they don't usually do custom orders that small. You bought a single cupcake because you were celebrating alone." "We're being the operative word," Dorian added, and I heard the pop of a cork. "Not anymore." My throat tightened. "You don't have to do this. I'm just—" "If you say just the help, I'm going to lose my mind," Sebastian interrupted. You're not just anything, Elias. You're. He trailed off. The silence stretched. You're important, Marcus finished quietly. To this house. To us. We should have noticed sooner, Dorian said, and there was genuine regret in his voice. Should have asked. Should have made sure you knew you weren't alone here. I didn't know what to say. My mind couldn't process what was happening. 3 powerful alphas, CEOs of one of the most successful companies in the city, making me a birthday cake at midnight in their own kitchen. The cake needs 20 minutes, Sebastian announced. In the meantime, I heard liquid being poured into glasses. Champagne. A glass was pressed into my hand. I held it carefully, feeling the delicate crystal, the cool condensation already forming on the outside. To Elias, Marcus said, who makes this house feel like a home. To Elias, Dorian echoed, who deserves so much better than celebrating alone. To Elias, Sebastian finished, his voice rougher than the others, who's been invisible for far too long. They were toasting me, celebrating me. I don't understand, I whispered. Why do you care? Because, Sebastian said, and his voice was close again, right in front of me. We've been watching you for 2 years, Elias, trying to figure out how to talk to you, how to get close to you without frightening you away. You're our chef, I said weakly. I work for you. That's all this is. Is it? Marcus asked. Is that why you filled our house with your scent? Why every room feels empty when you're not in it? Why we've all independently found excuses to be in the kitchen when you're working? Is that why, Dorian added, we've turned down every Omega who's shown interest in the past 2 years? Why we haven't been able to think about anyone else? My glass slipped. Sebastian caught it before it could fall, his large hand wrapping around mine to steady it. The touch sent electricity racing up my arm. I tried to pull away, but his grip tightened gently. Don't, he said. Don't run from this. From what? My voice cracked. I'm a blind Omega who cooks for you. You're 3 powerful alphas who could have anyone. It's not real, it's pity or... Stop. Marcus's hand found my other one. It's not pity. Then what is it? I demanded, frustration mixing with hope I was terrified to feel. We don't know, Dorian admitted, his hand settling on my shoulder. Not exactly, but it's been there since the beginning. Since you walked in here with your head held high and demanded to be judged on merit, since you navigated our kitchen blind and produced a meal that made grown men weep, since we realized you'd been hiding your light under a bushel because the world taught you that being Omega and blind meant being less. You're not less, Sebastian said fiercely. You're more. More talented, more brave, more beautiful than anyone we've ever met. Beautiful, the word hit like a physical blow. You can't see me, I whispered. How can you call me beautiful? Can't I? Sebastian's thumb stroked across my knuckles. I see the way you move through this kitchen like you're dancing. I see the way your face lights up when someone compliments your cooking. I see the way you tilt your head when you're listening, giving whoever's speaking your complete attention. I see strength and grace and a spirit the world tried to break but couldn't. That's beautiful, Marcus added softly. That's more than beautiful. I was crying now, tears spilling down my cheeks unchecked. Why didn't you say anything? I asked. In 2 years. Why didn't you? Because we were cowards, Dorian said bluntly. We thought you wouldn't want us. We're dangerous, Elias. Our business, our world, it's not safe. We didn't want to pull you into that. And, Marcus continued, we saw how you flinched whenever we came too close, how you made yourself smaller around us. We thought you were afraid. I was, I admitted, but not of you, of hoping, of wanting something I thought I could never have. What did you want? Sebastian asked. The truth sat on my tongue, terrifying and liberating at once. This, I whispered, to matter to someone, to be seen despite being blind, to not celebrate my birthday alone in the dark. You matter to us, Sebastian said, and the rawness in his voice made something crack open in my chest. You've mattered from the beginning. We've been trying to figure out how to tell you, Marcus added, trying to find the right moment, the right words. And then we heard you singing, Dorian finished. Heard you wish yourself happy birthday in a voice so heartbroken it nearly killed us. We couldn't walk away, Sebastian said. Not this time. The oven timer beeped, shattering the moment. Cake's ready, Dorian announced. I'll get it. I'll handle the frosting, Marcus volunteered. And I, Sebastian said, his thumb still stroking my hand, am not letting go of you. They moved around me again, coordinating the completion of this birthday cake they'd made for me. I sat in stunned silence, trying to process what had just happened. They cared. The three alphas I'd been half in love with for 2 years actually cared about me. All right, Marcus announced. Cake is frosted. Candles are lit. 28 of them, because apparently Sebastian thought we needed to be thorough. He deserves every candle, Sebastian defended. You're ridiculous, I said, but I was smiling. We're serious, Dorian corrected. About you. About this. Sebastian guided me to stand, his hand never leaving mine. I could feel the others move closer, forming a protective circle around me. Make a wish, Marcus said gently. And this time, know you're not alone. I leaned forward, finding the warmth of 28 candles on my face, and for the first time in years, let myself wish for something impossible. I wished for this to be real, for them to mean what they'd said, for a chance at happiness I'd stopped believing existed. I blew out the candles, and when the smoke cleared, they were still there, still surrounding me with their scent and their presence and their impossible attention. Happy birthday, Elias, they said in unison. And for the first time in 28 years, I believed it might actually be happy. The next morning, I woke in my small room off the kitchen and wondered if the entire night had been a dream. But then I smelled it, the lingering scent of Sebastian, Marcus, and Dorian on my clothes, in my hair, on my skin from where they'd hugged me before finally letting me retreat to bed at 3 a.m. We'd eaten the entire cake, had drunk 2 bottles of champagne, had talked about everything and nothing my childhood before I lost my sight, their early years building their company, the loneliness we'd all been carrying. It had felt real, terrifyingly, wonderfully real. I dragged myself out of bed and went through my morning routine by rote shower, dress in my chef's whites, braid my hair back the way I'd been doing since I was 16 and it started getting in my way while cooking. When I emerged, the house was quiet. The brothers usually left for their office downtown by 7. It was just past 8 now. I'd overslept, something I never did. I made my way to the kitchen, intending to start prep for tonight's dinner. Instead, I found something on the counter that made my breath catch. My fingers traced the shapes carefully. Braille letters spelled out across what felt like heavy cardstock. Good morning, Elias. The kitchen is yours today. No meals needed. Take the day for yourself. The library is waiting. S.M.D. Beneath the note, I felt something else. A key on a chain. I picked it up, confusion warring with a warmth spreading through my chest. It's for the library. I spun around at Sebastian's voice. I hadn't heard him enter. I thought you'd be at the office, I said. Called in sick. His footsteps approached. All 3 of us did. Decided we had more important things to do today. Like what? Like making sure you actually take a day off for once. Marcus this time, from the doorway. When's the last time you did that? I couldn't remember. I work 6 days a week, sometimes 7 if they were hosting events. The kitchen. Can survive without you for 1 day, Dorian interrupted, his voice coming from behind Marcus. We ordered takeout. We'll manage. But I should. You should do what the note says, Sebastian said, and I felt the key being pressed more firmly into my palm. The library is yours. We had something delivered this morning. We think you'll like it. Curiosity overcame my protests. What is it? Go see, Marcus said, amusement in his voice. We'll be in the office if you need us. Working from home today. They left before I could argue further. I stood in the kitchen holding the key, my heart doing complicated things in my chest, and made a decision. I went to the library. The room smelled of old books and leather, familiar and comforting. I'd spent many afternoons here on my days off, reading the textured editions the brothers kept specifically for me, though I'd only recently realized they'd been buying them deliberately, not that they'd always been there. I unlocked the door, though I couldn't remember it ever being locked before. Inside, the air smelled different. New paper, fresh ink. I explored by touch, moving carefully through the space until my fingers found it. A shelf, a new shelf. Lower than the others, perfect height for sitting on the window seat and reaching without stretching. And on the shelf, books. dozens of them. I pulled one out, my fingers finding the familiar raised dots of Braille on the cover. The Count of Monte Cristo, I read aloud. One of my favorites, but I'd never owned my own copy. I pulled another. Jane Eyre, another. The Three Musketeers. Adventure novels, my favorites. An entire shelf of them. For me, I sank onto the window seat, a book clutched to my chest, and let myself cry. Not tears of sadness this time, tears of being seen, being known, being cared for. I spent the entire day in that library, reading and touching each book like it was treasure, because it was. Each one was proof that they'd been paying attention, that I mattered. At 6, there was a knock on the door. "Come in," I called. The door opened. 3 sets of footsteps entered. "How was your day off?" Dorian asked. I turned toward their voices, smiling so wide my face hurt. "Perfect. Thank you. All of this, the books, the shelf, you didn't have to. We wanted to," Marcus said simply. "You deserve to have things of your own, to be given gifts, not just give them through your cooking. We wanted you to know," Sebastian added, moving closer, "that last night wasn't a fluke. This isn't temporary. We meant what we said." "About what exactly?" I needed to hear it again. Needed to be sure. "About you mattering," Sebastian said. "About wanting you to stay. About..." He paused, and I heard him take a breath. "About wanting more than just a professional relationship." My heart stopped. "More? If you want it?" Marcus said quickly. "If you're interested. We would never pressure you. You work for us, and that power dynamic, we're aware of it. We'd never abuse it. But," Dorian continued, "we can't keep pretending we don't feel this pull toward you. Can't keep acting like you're just our chef when you're so much more." "What do you want from me?" I whispered. "Everything," Sebastian said bluntly. "We want to court you properly, want to show you that you deserve to be treasured, want to prove that we're serious about this, about you." "I'm blind," I said, the old fear rising. "I can't give you children that can see. I can't. I'll always need accommodation. I'll always be..." "Perfect exactly as you are," Marcus interrupted firmly. "Your blindness doesn't make you less, Elias. It's part of you, part of what makes you who you are." "And who you are," Dorian added, "is someone we've been falling for since the day you walked into our lives." "All 3 of you?" I couldn't wrap my mind around it. "This isn't just alphas don't share. Not usually. We're triplets," Sebastian said. "We've shared everything since before we were born. Our bond runs deeper than typical siblings. When we feel something this strongly, we feel it together. And we all feel it for you," Marcus confirmed. I stood slowly, my legs shaking. "I don't know how to do this, how to be courted, how to be wanted." "Then let us teach you," Sebastian said, and his hand found mine again, warm and sure. "Let us show you." "What if I mess this up?" My voice cracked. "What if I'm not enough?" "You're already more than enough," Dorian said, his hand settling on my shoulder. "You just have to trust us. Trust that we're telling the truth. And trust yourself," Marcus added, his hand taking my other one. "Trust that you deserve this." I stood there between them, surrounded by their scent and their attention and their impossible sincerity, and felt something shift inside me. I'd been hiding for so long, been making myself small, been convinced that my disability and my designation meant I didn't deserve to want things. But they were offering me everything I'd been too afraid to wish for. I took a breath. "Okay. Okay?" Sebastian's voice held cautious hope. "Okay," I repeated, stronger this time. "Court me. Show me. Teach me how to believe I deserve this." The relief that flooded from them was palpable, their sense blooming with happiness. "Thank you," Marcus whispered, "for trusting us. For giving us a chance," Dorian added. "For not running," Sebastian finished. "Even though you're scared. Terrified," I corrected. "But I'm tired of living in fear." "Then let us help you live in something better," Sebastian said. And for the first time in my life, I believed someone actually could. The courtship was like nothing I'd imagined. They were relentless but patient, overwhelming but gentle. Sebastian brought me coffee every morning, made exactly how I liked it. 2 sugars, cream, with a hint of cinnamon. He learned my preference by watching, by paying attention to what brought me joy. But it was more than just coffee. He'd arrive in the kitchen while I was prepping breakfast, press the warm mug into my hands, and stay. Sometimes we'd talk about the day ahead. Sometimes we'd stand in comfortable silence, his presence solid and grounding beside me. "Tell me about the accident," he said one morning, about a week into the courtship. I'd frozen, the coffee cup halfway to my lips. "Why?" "Because it's part of you. And I want to know all of you." So, I told him. About being 15. About the car ride home from my piano recital I'd played Chopin, had been so proud of how well it went. About my mother turning around to smile at me, to tell me I'd been magnificent. About the drunk driver who ran the red light. About waking up in the hospital 3 days later to find my parents dead and my world gone dark. Sebastian had listened without interrupting, his hand finding mine and holding tight. "The first year was the worst," I continued, my voice hollow with old pain. "I was angry at everything, at the drunk driver, at my parents for dying, at myself for surviving, at God for taking my sight and leaving me with nothing but darkness. How did you survive it?" Sebastian's voice was rough. "I almost didn't. Spent 6 months wishing I'd died with them. I swallowed hard. Then my social worker took me to a cooking class for people with disabilities. I hated the idea. Hated being lumped in with disabled people like it was my identity now. But you went anyway. She didn't give me a choice." I smiled slightly at the memory. Showed up at my foster home and physically dragged me to the community center. I was furious. Refused to participate. Sat in the corner with my arms crossed like a petulant child. "What changed?" The instructor, Mr. Chen. He was blind too, had been since birth. And he moved through that kitchen like he was dancing. Created dishes I could smell from across the room. Dishes that made my mouth water despite my anger. I set down my coffee cup, my fingers finding the familiar grooves in the marble counter. After class, he came over to me, said, "You can sit in the dark and be bitter, or you can learn to navigate by other lights. Your choice." Then he walked away. "And you chose to learn." I showed up the next week, and the week after that. For 2 years, I learned from him how to organize my space, how to identify ingredients by smell and texture, how to use timers and measuring tools designed for blind cooks, how to trust my other senses. My throat tightened. He died right before I turned 18. Heart attack in his sleep. By then, cooking had become my lifeline. The one thing that made me feel capable. The one thing that proved I could still create despite the darkness. Sebastian was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "He'd be proud of you, of what you've become." The words hit harder than I expected. Tears burned behind my sightless eyes. "Thank you," I whispered. Sebastian's hand cupped my face with devastating gentleness. "Thank you for trusting me with this, for letting me know you." And then he kissed me, soft and sweet and full of understanding. When he pulled away, I was smiling through my tears. "You're dangerous. You know that?" "How so?" "You make me want to hope. And hope has never been kind to me. Then let me be kind to you instead." His thumb brushed my cheek. "Let me prove that hope can be safe." Marcus started reading to me in the evenings. We'd sit in the library, him in the armchair and me on the window seat, and he'd bring the adventure novels to life, with different voices for each character. His dramatic flair made me laugh until my sides hurt. But on the 5th night, he stopped mid-sentence. "What's wrong?" I asked. "You're crying." I touched my face, surprised to find wetness there. I didn't realize. "The scene, is it too much? We can skip to the next chapter." "No, it's not that." I wiped at my eyes. "It's just, my mother used to read to me like this." Before the accident. Different voices, dramatic pauses. I'd forgotten how much I loved it. Marcus was quiet. Then I heard him set the book aside and cross to the window seat. "May I sit with you?" I nodded, shifting to make room. He settled beside me, close enough that I could feel his warmth, and gently pulled me against his chest. "Tell me about her," he said softly. "Your mother." So I did. About her laugh that sounded like wind chimes. About how she'd braid my hair every morning while I ate breakfast. About her terrible singing voice that she'd use anyway, belting out show tunes while she cooked dinner. "She loved fiercely," I said. defended me against anyone who suggested I couldn't do something because I was Omega, told me I could be anything I wanted. She was right. She didn't get to see if that was true. She died before I could prove her right or wrong. Marcus's arms tightened around me. You've proven her right every single day since. You've become someone extraordinary despite unimaginable loss. She'd be so proud. You can't know that. Yes, I can. Because I'm proud of you. Because anyone who knows you would be proud. Your mother gave you that foundation, that fierce belief in yourself. It's still there, even when you can't see it. I turned in his arms, finding his face with my hands. His features were sharp under my fingertips, strong jaw, high cheekbones, a nose that had been broken at some point and healed slightly crooked. Thank you, I whispered, for seeing me, for understanding. Always, Marcus promised, and then he kissed me with a tenderness that made my heart ache. When we finally pulled apart, he said, "Should I keep reading, or would you rather talk more?" "Read," I said. "I like listening to your voice." So he did, and I fell asleep in his arms with adventure stories filling my head and warmth filling my chest. Dorian took me on motorcycle rides. I'd been terrified at first, but he'd been patient, talking me through every sensation, letting me feel the wind and the speed and the freedom. But one evening, 2 weeks into the courtship, something changed. We were on our usual route, the winding mountain road that led to the lookout point. I had my arms wrapped around Dorian's waist, my face pressed against his back, feeling the rumble of the engine through my entire body. Then he pulled off the road. "What's wrong?" I asked, climbing off the bike when he cut the engine. "Did something break?" "Nothing's broken." His hands found mine. I wanted to stop here. "Where's here?" "The overlook, where you can see the entire city spread out below." He paused. "Or where people who can see it, anyway." I tensed. Was he trying to remind me of what I was missing? To point out the fundamental difference between us? "Hey," his hand squeezed mine. "That came out wrong. I didn't bring you here to make you feel bad about not being able to see." "Then why?" "Because I want to try something. Will you trust me?" I hesitated, then nodded. Dorian guided me to the edge of the overlook, positioning me carefully. Then he stood behind me, his chest against my back, his arms wrapped around me. "Close your eyes," he said. "They're already not working." "What's the difference?" "Humor me." I let my eyelids fall, even though it changed nothing. "Now, listen," Dorian murmured against my ear. "Tell me what you hear." I focused. Wind in the trees behind us. Cars on the highway below, distant, like waves. Good. What else? Birds. Some kind of hawk, I think, by the cry. And music? From the city. Bass carrying up the mountain. Perfect. Now smell. What do you smell? I breathed deeply. Pine from the forest. Your cologne. Exhaust from the highway. And I inhaled again. Chinese food. Someone's cooking stir-fry nearby. Dorian laughed. "There's a restaurant at the base of this hill. You're probably smelling their dinner rush." "What about you?" I asked. "What do you see?" "Lights," he said. "Thousands of them. The city glowing like it's on fire. Skyscrapers reaching up, highways cutting through like veins of light. It's beautiful. I'm glad you can see it." "You can," he insisted, "just differently. You're experiencing this place with senses I barely use. You're hearing things I never notice, smelling things that pass me by completely. Your version might be more real than mine." I leaned back against him, feeling his solid warmth. That's a nice way to think about it. "It's the truth." His lips brushed my temple. "I love that you navigate the world differently. Love watching you experience things I take for granted. You make me pay attention. Make me appreciate what I have. Even the blindness? Especially that, because it's part of you, and I love every part of you." The confession hung in the air between us. "Say it again," I whispered. "I love you, Elias. I've loved you for months, since you told that board member to fuck off when he suggested you were hired as a charity case." I laughed, despite the tears forming. I didn't say, "fuck off." "You told him his concern was noted and dismissed." Same thing. Dorian turned me in his arms so we were facing each other. "You stood up for yourself with such quiet dignity. Such strength." And I thought, that's the kind of Omega I want in my life. Even though I'm blind? Because of everything you are, including blind. All of it together makes you perfect. I kissed him then, rising on my toes to find his mouth with mine. He met me halfway, his kiss fierce and possessive and full of promise. When we finally broke apart, I was breathless. I love you too, I admitted. All three of you. I think I have from the beginning. Good. Dorian's grin was audible. Because we're not letting you go. They coordinated like a well-oiled machine, tag-teaming my defenses. When one backed off to give me space, another stepped in with gentle persistence. They asked about my life before, about how I lost my sight, about the years in foster care, about the loneliness of being an omega with a disability. And slowly, piece by piece, I let them in. Told them about the foster homes that treated me like a burden, about the other children who'd bullied me for being different, about the social workers who'd meant well but never quite understood, about applying to culinary school and being rejected 3 times before finding one that would take a chance on a blind student, about working twice as hard as everyone else to prove I deserved to be there, about graduating top of my class and still being turned down for job after job because insurance liability or health and safety concerns, about the desperation that led me to their door 2 years ago, resume in hand and pride swallowed, begging for a chance. You didn't beg, Sebastian said when I finished that particular story. You demanded. Showed up with a meal plan and a list of accommodations you'd need. Told me you'd work for a month unpaid to prove yourself. I was desperate. You were magnificent. His hand found mine. And I hired you before you left the interview because I knew talent when I saw it. Disability had nothing to do with it. Liar, I said, but I was smiling. You felt sorry for me. I felt awed by you. Still do. Their acceptance, their understanding, their refusal to treat my blindness as a tragedy, it was healing something in me I hadn't known was broken. The old wounds, the scars from years of being told I wasn't enough, slowly began to fade. But it wasn't all smooth. 3 weeks into the courtship, reality came crashing down. I was in the kitchen preparing dinner when I heard raised voices from Sebastian's office. Don't care about your concerns. The decision is final. Mr. Hartley, the board is worried about your recent distractions. The missed meetings, the lack of focus. I've missed 2 meetings in 5 years. Hardly a pattern. But the timing is suspicious. There are rumors about your relationship with... Careful. Sebastian's voice went deadly cold. Very careful about what you say next. I shouldn't have been able to hear from this distance, but my hearing had grown sharp. Sharp enough to catch the next words that made my blood run cold. The Omega, the blind one, your chef. People are talking, Mr. Hartley. They're saying you've been compromised, that all 3 of you have been distracted by some damaged Omega who can't even... The sound of something slamming a desk, a door, cut him off. Get out! Sebastian's voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried more menace than any shout. Get out before I do something we'll both regret. Mr. Hartley, I'm only trying to... Out, now, and tell the board that if they have concerns about my personal life, they can take them up with me directly, not through their lackey. And if I hear one more goddamn word about Elias being damaged or a distraction or anything other than the extraordinary man he is, I will personally see to it that every single board member is replaced. You can't do that. I own 45% of this company. Marcus and Dorian own another 30% between them. Want to bet on whether we can do it? Footsteps, angry, hurried footsteps. Then a door slamming so hard the walls shook. I stood frozen in the kitchen, the knife I'd been using to chop vegetables trembling in my hand. Damaged, that's what they'd called me, damaged. And they were right, weren't I? Blind, alone, dependent on the kindness of 3 alphas who could do so much better than me. I was making them vulnerable, making them a target for criticism, ruining the reputation they'd spent years building. The realization hit like a physical blow. I set down the knife carefully, my hands shaking, and walked to my room on autopilot. I needed to pack, needed to leave before I destroyed everything they'd worked for. I was pulling clothes from my closet when footsteps approached 3 sets, moving in sync the way only the Hartley brothers could. Elias, Sebastian's voice. I didn't turn around, couldn't face them. I heard. Of course you did, Marcus, closer than Sebastian. Your hearing picks up everything. Which means you also heard me fire him, Sebastian continued. I paused, hands full of shirts. You fired a board member? He's not a board member. He's the board's assistant. Was the board's assistant, now he's unemployed. Sebastian. No. His voice was firm. Don't defend him. Don't make excuses. He called you damaged. I am damaged, I said quietly. I'm blind. I can't give you children who can see properly. I can't. I'll always be a liability. Always need accommodation. Always be. Perfect, Dorian interrupted, his hand on my shoulder. You're always going to be perfect exactly as you are. I heard what he said, about me being a distraction, making you vulnerable. He's right. He's an idiot, Marcus said bluntly. And he's gone. But the board will adjust, or they won't. Either way, we don't care. I finally turned to face them, even though I couldn't see their expressions. You should care. You've built something incredible, an empire. And I'm going to be the reason it falls apart. No, Sebastian said, and suddenly his hands were on my face, cupping my cheeks with a gentleness that made my chest ache. You're going to be the reason we remember why we built it in the first place. I don't understand. We've spent 10 years building this company, Marcus explained, his hand finding mine. 10 years working ourselves to death for profit margins and shareholder value. Know what we got out of it? Success, I ventured. Emptiness, Dorian corrected. We had money, power, respect, and we were miserable. Going through the motions, existing, but not living. Then you walked into our lives, Sebastian continued, his thumbs brushing away tears I hadn't realized were falling. You showed us what it means to find joy in small things, to take pride in creation instead of just acquisition, to actually feel something beyond ambition. We were already ruined before you, Marcus added softly. Empty shells pretending to be human. You saved us, made us real again. But the board can go to hell, Sebastian said flatly. I didn't build this company to be enslaved by it. If they can't accept you, accept us, then we'll start over. You can't just throw away everything you've built. We're not throwing it away. We're choosing something more important. Dorian squeezed my shoulder. We're choosing you. We're choosing us. We're choosing to actually live instead of just accumulate. You'll regret it, I whispered. When the shine wears off and you realize what you gave up for me, you'll... We won't, all three said in unison. The synchronized response would have been funny if I wasn't falling apart. You can't know that. Yes, we can, Sebastian said, because we've already had everything the world says we should want, and it left us empty. You fill us. You make us whole. That's not going to change. I'm scared, I admitted, terrified. Every time I've loved someone, they've been taken away. My parents. Mr. Chen, I can't if I let myself love you and then lose you. You won't lose us, Marcus promised. We're not going anywhere. You can't promise that. Life is, people die, people leave. I can't. My voice broke completely. Sebastian pulled me against his chest, holding me tight while I shattered. You're right, he said into my hair. We can't promise we'll never die. Can't promise life won't throw terrible things at us. But we can promise that as long as we're breathing, we're yours. As long as we have a choice, we choose you. Every single time, Marcus added, his arms wrapping around us both. No matter what, Dorian finished, completing the embrace. I stood in the circle of their arms, surrounded by their scent and their certainty, and tried to believe them. Tried to be brave enough to hope. I need time, I finally whispered, to process, to think. Take all the time you need, Sebastian said, though I could hear the fear in his voice. But take it here. Don't run. I won't run, I promised, but I need space. Just for a little while. They let me go, but I could feel their reluctance in every movement. We'll be here, Marcus said, whenever you're ready. I nodded and retreated to my room, closing the door behind me. For the next 3 days, I existed in a fog. I cooked their meals but ate alone, worked but avoided conversation beyond what was necessary for the kitchen. They gave me space, but I could feel their hurt, could smell it in their scents whenever they came near, worry and sadness mixing with their usual warmth. I knew I was being cruel. knew they deserved better than my silence. But I was terrified. Terrified of hoping only to have hope destroyed. Terrified of loving only to face loss again. On the fourth morning, I found something on my bedside table. My fingers traced the familiar raised dots of Braille, and I realized someone had painstakingly transcribed a letter for me. Elias, it began in Marcus's voice. I'd learned to distinguish their thought patterns in writing. I'm writing this because I think better on paper than in person. I need you to understand something. The board member who questioned our relationship, he was right about one thing. We have been distracted, but not in the way he meant. We've been distracted from the emptiness we used to accept as normal, distracted from the lonely existence we'd convinced ourselves was enough. You've shown us what it means to live instead of just survive. You've shown us that success means nothing if you have no one to share it with. Remember what you told Sebastian about Mr. Chen? About how he said you could sit in the dark and be bitter, or learn to navigate by other lights? We've been sitting in the dark, Elias, for years, building empires in the shadows. Then you walked in with your light, and we remembered what it feels like to see. We're not asking you to be perfect. We're not asking you to fit some impossible mold. We're asking you to be you. The man who hums Chopin while he cooks because it reminds him of his mother, who touches every dish with such care it's like a prayer, who reads adventure novels and dreams of worlds he can't see but understands better than most who can. That's all we want, all we'll ever want. Please come back to us. Please stop running from the best thing that's ever happened to any of us. We love you, all three of us, completely, irrevocably, forever. M. Attached to the letter was something else. I felt it carefully, a USB drive. Confused, I found my laptop, the one with screen reading software that converted text to speech, and plugged in the drive. A video file, one that had been formatted with audio description. I hit play. "This is Sebastian," his voice said through the speakers. "I'm not good with words, never have been, so I'm showing you instead." What followed was a tour of their offices, specifically a new wing that was apparently under construction. "We're building a test kitchen," Sebastian's recorded voice explained. "State-of-the-art, designed specifically for accessibility, every counter at the perfect height. Braille labels on everything, appliances with audio feedback. A separate pantry organized the way you organize our kitchen at home." The tour continued. An office, a teaching space, a dining area for testing and tasting. "We're starting a culinary program," Sebastian continued. "For aspiring chefs with disabilities, you'd be the head instructor, if you want. No pressure. But we wanted you to know that we're serious about building a future with you. Not despite who you are, because of who you are." The video ended. I sat in stunned silence, the laptop humming softly in front of me. They'd built this. For me. We're building a future around me. The fear was still there, still whispering that this was too good to be true. But louder than the fear was something else. Hope. Fragile and terrifying and absolutely irresistible. I stood, took a deep breath, and went to find them. They were in Sebastian's office, all three bent over spreadsheets and looking miserable. I knocked on the door frame. All three looked up. I couldn't see their expressions, but I could smell hope bloom in their sense. "I'm sorry," I said, "for running, for doubting, for—" "Don't apologize," Sebastian said, crossing to me in 3 long strides. "Just tell us you're staying." "I'm staying," I whispered, "if you'll still have me." "Always," Marcus said, his hand finding mine. "Forever," Dorian added, taking my other hand. "Completely," Sebastian finished, cupping my face gently. And then he kissed me. It was soft at first, questioning, giving me room to pull away. I didn't pull away. I kissed him back, pouring 2 years of longing into the touch. When we finally broke apart, I was breathless and shaking, and more certain than I'd ever been. "I love you too," I said. "All 3 of you. I have for so long." "Thank God," Marcus breathed, turning me toward him and capturing my lips with his own. His kiss was different, gentler, exploring, savoring. When he released me, Dorian took his turn, his kiss passionate and desperate, like he was trying to memorize the taste of me. "Marry us," Sebastian said when we finally came up for air. I blinked. "What?" "Marry us, bond with us, let us claim you properly, let the whole world know you're ours and we're yours." We've only been, you can't be serious. We're completely serious, Marcus said. We've been serious since the beginning. But marriage bonding, that's permanent. What if you change your mind? We won't, Dorian said with absolute certainty. We're already bonded to you in every way that matters. Making it official just means the rest of the world will know it too. I was crying again. Seemed like that was all I did around them anymore. Yes, I whispered. Yes, I'll marry you, bond with you, all of it. The joy that flooded from them was intoxicating. When? Sebastian demanded. Whenever you want. Tomorrow, he said immediately. Sebastian, Marcus laughed. Give the man time to breathe. Fine, this weekend. Still too soon, I said, but I was smiling. At least give me a month to wrap my head around this. 3 weeks, Dorian negotiated. Deal. The wedding was small, intimate, perfect. Just us, the officiant, and Mrs. Chen, the head of household who'd been quietly supporting us from the beginning, and Mr. Rodriguez, the head gardener who taught me to identify plants by touch and scent. We held it in the rooftop garden that had become our sanctuary, the one place where I felt completely at home, completely safe. I wore a simple suit in deep blue, Marcus had chosen it, describing the color as the exact shade of twilight, when the sky holds just enough light to feel hopeful. They wore their best, Sebastian in charcoal gray, Marcus in navy, Dorian in black with a silver tie. They described themselves to me before the ceremony, their hands guiding mine to feel the texture of their suits, the smoothness of their ties. You look beautiful, Sebastian had said, his voice rough. You can't see me, I protested. Don't need to, I can feel it. The ceremony itself was short. The officiant spoke about love transcending boundaries, about families built on choice rather than convention, about the courage it takes to hope when the world has given you reasons not to. When it came time for the vows, Sebastian went first. Elias, he said, his voice steady despite the emotion I could smell rolling off him. You walked into my life singing to yourself in the dark, and somehow in that moment, I saw more clearly than I ever had before. I vow to be your light when you need it, your strength when yours falters, and your home no matter where we are. Marcus was next. I vow, he said softly, to read to you every night that you want it, to describe the world in ways that make you see it more clearly than my eyes ever could, to love every part of you, the strength and the vulnerability, the joy and the grief, the sight and the blindness, because all of it together makes you perfect. Dorian finished. I vow, he said, his voice thick with tears, to take you on adventures, to help you experience the world through sound and scent and touch, to remind you every single day that you are seen, known, and loved beyond measure, and to protect what we have with everything I am. Then it was my turn. I took a breath, steadying myself, and spoke the words I'd practiced for days. Sebastian, Marcus, Dorian, you found me in my darkest moment and chose to stay. You saw past my blindness to the person underneath. You taught me that being disabled doesn't mean being damaged, that needing help doesn't mean being weak, and that love doesn't have to end in loss. My voice cracked. I vow to trust you, to let you love me even when I'm scared, to build a life with you that's bigger than my fear, and to choose hope every single day, because you've shown me it's safe to do so. The officiant pronounced us bonded before any claiming had even occurred in our society. The commitment came first, the biological bond second. You may seal your union, she said with a smile. All 3 of them kissed me in turn, Sebastian first, fierce and possessive, then Marcus, tender and sweet. Finally, Dorian, passionate and joyful. When they pulled away, I was crying and laughing and so overwhelmed with happiness I could barely breathe. Congratulations, Mrs. Chen said, her voice suspiciously thick. Mr. Thorne Hartley. The bonding came after, private and sacred in the bedroom they'd prepared specifically for this. They described it to me earlier, a massive bed with the softest sheets money could buy, candles filling the room with the scent of vanilla and sandalwood, flowers arranged by Dorian with specific attention to fragrance. We want your first memory of this to be good, Sebastian had explained. Want you to associate the bonding with beauty. Now, standing in that room with my 3 husbands surrounding me, I felt cherished in a way I'd never imagined possible. Are you ready? Marcus asked gently. I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. They undressed me slowly, reverent touches that made me shiver, made me feel beautiful despite not being able to see my own reflection. You're shaking, Dorian murmured against my neck. I'm nervous. This is my first time. We know, Sebastian said. We'll take care of you, I promise. And they did. Each of them marked me in turn, their bites on my scent glands, sending waves of pleasure and completion through my body that had nothing to do with pain and everything to do with connection. When the bonds finally snapped into place, the sensation was overwhelming. Suddenly I could feel them, not just physically but emotionally. Sebastian's fierce protectiveness wrapped around me like armor, Marcus's steady devotion flowing through me like a river, Dorian's wild joy lifting me like wings. Can you feel us? Sebastian asked, his voice rough with awe. Yes, I breathed. I can feel all of you. It's incredible. Good, Marcus murmured against my neck. Because we're never letting you go. Never, Dorian agreed, his lips brushing my shoulder. Never, Sebastian echoed, gathering all of us closer. I smiled, wrapped in their arms and their scents and their love, and finally believed I deserved it. Believed it was real. Believed it would last. 6 months later, I stood in the kitchen preparing dinner for a charity event. The house was full of guests, important people, donors and board members, and society elite. I'd been nervous about this night, about being on display as the blind Omega who'd somehow caught the attention of the Hartley brothers. But Sebastian had kissed my fears away that morning. You're not on display, he'd said. Your food is, and your food speaks for itself. He was right. The compliments had been pouring in all evening, guests asking for the chef, wanting to congratulate whoever had created such an extraordinary meal. I was wiping down the counters, preparing to start cleanup, when I heard the kitchen door open. Excuse me? Are you the chef? A woman's voice, cultured and curious. Yes, ma'am, I said, turning toward her. That meal was extraordinary, truly. The lamb was cooked to perfection, and the dessert, I've never tasted anything like it. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm hosting a gala next month. Would you be available? I can pay whatever your rate is. I smiled. I appreciate the offer, but I'm not available for private events. Oh, disappointment colored her tone. That's a shame. May I ask why? Because I only cook for my husbands now, I said simply. She paused. You're married to the Hartley brothers? All three of them. Silence. Then, surprisingly, laughter. Well, that explains why the food tasted like it was made with love, and why they've been impossible to pin down socially. They're already taken. Very taken, Sebastian said from the doorway. I could hear the smile in his voice. I can see that, the woman said. You're very lucky, Mr. Hartley. We're the lucky ones, Marcus corrected, entering the kitchen with Dorian. Very lucky, Dorian agreed. I felt them surround me, their familiar presences grounding me. The woman laughed again. I can see I'm interrupting. Thank you again for the extraordinary meal, chef. You're welcome. She left, and I felt the brothers relax. You handled that well, Sebastian said, pressing a kiss to my temple. I had good teachers. The event's winding down, Marcus said. Want to escape to the garden? Yes, please. We made our way through the house, avoiding the lingering guests, until we reached our sanctuary. The rooftop garden was quiet, peaceful. The string lights Sebastian had installed cast warm glows across the flowers I tended, with Marcus's help. The jasmine was blooming tonight, filling the air with sweetness that reminded me of hope. I reached out, my fingers finding the familiar petals, soft and delicate under my touch. Happy? Dorian asked, pulling me against his chest. I leaned into him, feeling Sebastian and Marcus settle on either side of us. Deliriously, I turned my face up toward the night sky, feeling the cool breeze on my skin. 6 months ago, I was singing to myself in a dark kitchen, convinced I'd always be alone. Now I have this. You. All of you. We have you, Marcus corrected gently. That's what changed everything for us. Good. Sebastian's hand found mine. Because we have a surprise. Another one? You three spoil me. You deserve to be spoiled, Marcus said. But this one is practical. We've been talking, and we want to expand the kitchen. Expand it? Why? Because, Dorian said, we want you to have the space you've always dreamed of. A kitchen where you can experiment, create, maybe even teach someday if you want to. Teach? There's a blind culinary student who contacted us last month, Sebastian explained. He'd heard about you about the blind chef working for the Hartley brothers, wanted to know if you'd be willing to mentor him. My throat tightened. Someone wants to learn from me? Several someones, Marcus corrected. Turns out there are a lot of aspiring chefs with disabilities who see you as proof that they can succeed. That blindness doesn't mean giving up on dreams. I don't know what to say. Say you'll think about it, Sebastian said. No pressure. But we wanted you to know the option is there. I turned in Dorian's arms, reaching out until I found Sebastian and Marcus. I pulled them all closer until we were tangled together the way I loved most. I never thought I'd have this, I whispered. Never thought I deserved it. You always deserved it, Marcus said fiercely. The world just needed time to catch up. We're glad it did, Dorian added. Glad you gave us a chance. Glad you said yes, Sebastian finished. I smiled, feeling their bonds thrumming with love and contentment. Me too. A year ago, I'd been singing happy birthday to myself in a dark kitchen, convinced I'd always be alone. Now I had 3 husbands, a home, a future I'd never dared to dream of. And it all started because I'd been brave enough to blow out that candle twice. Once alone, once surrounded by love. The second time had changed everything. Thank you for joining Elias Thorne's journey from invisible blind Omega to cherished mate. If this story of birthday wishes, triplet alphas, and finding love in unexpected places touched your heart, hit that like button and subscribe for more BL Omegaverse stories. Drop a comment telling me what moment hit you hardest. Was it the first discovery, the books in the library, or the final bonding? Until next time, remember, sometimes our loneliest moments lead us to the people who will make us feel most seen.